Hey guys, thanks for checking things out here. Scotty Wayne at the Hustle and Grind Pod. You will not be disappointed again. We say it every time, but what a great episode. We've got Jim Graham and Jessica Fernandes from Try Recycling. You know that Dos Equis guy, that most interesting man in the world? Well, I think Jim Graham was a runner-up. This guy has all kinds of cool stories, great things. We're going to talk about waste management and the innovations and the opportunities that still exist within this industry today. Talk about the London International Air Show and Jim's involvement there. All kinds of good stuff. You're not going to want to miss it. Check it out. We'll see you there.
Okay, welcome Jim Graham, Jessica Fernandes of Try Recycling. Thanks for coming on our podcast here. Super excited to have you guys on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
we're pumped.
Yeah,
Welcome.
It's going to be a lot of fun. So what's really great about having you guys on, we're into our 14th episode or something like that, but we've had some really interesting people on. I think with Try Recycling and with you guys, you're kind of the unsung heroes of our community, right? You're this company that exists within London in our community. You do such good for our community, but not a lot of people really, look at you as, I guess. Or maybe they do, like a local business. Now, Try, and Jim, maybe take us through this, how Try came to be, the story of Try, your story as well. I think, when you purchased Try, it was a small company, and you've really grown that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Try was started in 1991.
Wow.
There was a group of guys from the construction industry, my father being one of the three partners, and they were looking at where they thought recycling was going and construction materials were going. And on a whim, they started this construction materials recycling company. And for the first 3-4 years, they were able to get lots of material in, but they weren't quite sure what to do with the material when it came in.
Huh.
The three of them were just kind of done with it. They were all busy with other things in their life, and they put it on the market in 1996. I was in the sand and gravel business. I also had a sand and gravel company at the time.
Cool.
I said, hey, guys, let me take a look at this before you put it on the market. Because it's very similar to sand and gravel. It's materials handling. And without knowing very much about recycling and what we were going to do with the material, I bought the company, and we had a small team of 4 or 5 guys.
Wow.
And no ladies at that time. And very quickly I realized, first of all, nobody else was doing it, and there was no guide for dummies. So
You had to figure it out on your own.
You had to kind of create the blueprint of recycling, I guess.
And you know what? The waste industry is a really young industry. I mean, the Blue Box program started in Vermont in like 1978. It was a hippie commune.
Really?
And it kind of grew. And, now, I mean, the Blue Box is all part of our life. It's ingrained in our life. The waste industry, 30 years ago, we were going to the dump. Right? You're taking it to the dump and just throwing it out, everything and anything, and stuff was leaching out, and that's just what we did.
Yeah.
You go watch the Bears if you're up north. Now, you go, I mean, there's a hierarchy of things you do. You reuse first, you recycle. Sometimes you can get energy from waste, and then if you can't do anything with it, it goes to a landfill, and these are highly engineered, complex pieces of infrastructure to make sure the environment's safe and to capture any beneficial stuff coming out of it. Like the City of London's landfill, we got one of the most advanced methane gas collection systems. So when food and organics break down, they suck the methane out as it's breaking down, and then that can be used to power generators and stuff, put power back on the grid.
Now, I did
not know that.
because the green bin is part of the London community now, right?
Correct.
So the organic materials are going in, and I did a little bit of research, but what I learned from, if that stuff gets into the landfill, that's where like excess methane kind of.
Yeah, and then they got these pipe systems inside the landfill that suck that methane out, because otherwise it can build up and explode. But it's also usable to make energy from it.
I did not, and that's happening right here in London.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The glamorous world of waste. There's all kinds of cool stuff going on.
But that's why you're here, because I think that we really want to get into this, and I think people be fascinated by the business of recycling, how
That's
it's helping, right?
Most intrigued by it.
Yeah.
Like just the way I've thought about it, I don't know if you can get a more brilliant business plan. Okay, folks, bring me your garbage.
Yeah.
Hold on a sec. You're going to pay me.
Yeah.
You're going to pay me for your garbage. So you're going to collect some funds for that. Now I'm going to take the garbage you've given me. I'm going to recycle it, and then I'm going to sell kitty litter or any number of different products that you guys create out of the recycling of the materials, which is absolutely wild. You don't have to, like most companies, they need raw materials. They go buy the raw materials.
Right.
People are paying you for your raw materials.
Scott, I need to hire you as a consultant because I haven't quite figured out how to get it that simple yet, but we're working on it. So yeah, nobody had written the book on how to do it. Nobody was handling construction materials in large volumes. So everything we did was sitting around with a whiteboard, and a lot of us had a construction background and going, what can we substitute natural materials like sand and gravel with materials that are coming off a construction site that would otherwise be buried? So let's crush up the concrete and make gravel out of it. Let's crush up shingles, crush up asphalt, blend them together, and make something that's better than just a typical recycled asphalt. Oh, drywall. What are we going to do with drywall? Well, kitty litter manufacturers need it. And back when I bought the company, all the drywall we were getting was going to kitty litter manufacturers. But all of a sudden, kitty litter manufacturers were headed to China. So we go, what's next? Created an industrial absorbable material with drywall. So they put it in tanker trucks that had corrosive stuff that was sloshing around, and the drywall would congeal it so it wouldn't slosh around. Now we're blending that drywall with compost that we make from leaf and yard waste, and it's going on specific fields because drywall actually balances the pH in the soil. Gypsum. And so we don't walk around in white lab coats, man. We're out there on construction sites. We're talking with the farmers. We're trying to come up with simple solutions for all these materials that otherwise go to landfill. I mean, we see construction material going by London every day to landfills in Michigan, and we're going, that stuff should not be being buried. We can turn that into a resource.
So what is the percent? I know it's a high percentage of the material that you receive that you can turn. It's something like above 80% or 85%. 85% of material you receive, you're able to repurpose it.
Absolutely. And that's not greenwashing because we have to submit reports every year to the Ministry of the Environment.
Okay.
I mean, there's probably no more highly regulated industry than ours. And so we have to verify every year what our diversion rate is and prove it. And so, we are at 85% of everything that comes in our gate is repurposed to replace or to be a resource.
Yeah.
So how in an industry that's so highly regulated, How is it that there's still so much of this shit going to the landfill where other municipalities haven't clued in? Like how is that even?
Well, it's regulated on how we do things, but it's not regulated on what materials should be recycled. I mean, like I said, we're sort of only like just in the first era of modernizing what we do with waste. We like to think that we're way ahead of it. I mean, the Blue Box program is only like 40 years old. So, I mean, right now there's no regulation saying what can't go into a landfill. So when we try and get a ton of your material from a construction site, 2,000 pounds of waste construction material, we compete on a dollar for dollar basis with a landfill. If we're, contractors want to do the right thing, but if we're 10% more to recycle, they got a bottom line they got to work with too, right? So, I mean, there's no laws saying, even though we can recycle it, that it has to be recycled in Ontario.
Yeah, that's fun. So it's there's so much I want to get into because, listening to you, Jim, talk about this, the first thing that really comes to mind is, innovation. And I don't think you really think about innovation when you think about recycling. You just we're just conditioned to throw things in the blue box, put it on the curb, and then forget about it. But I think what you've done as really kind of a leader in at least Ontario, probably Canada, I would imagine, is really innovate. Can you talk a little bit about what that looks like in terms of, always innovating, always thinking of new ways to recycle or to run your business?
Well, first of all, our back is always against the wall.
Yeah.
Anything we can't recycle, we got to pay to send to the landfill.
Right.
So the more we can recycle, the healthier the business model is. So we're always looking at where the next resource we can make out of these waste products is. And that's just a constant discussion every day in our office. It's like, hey, have you thought about this idea? Again, nobody else is doing it to the size and volume that we're doing in Ontario and probably Canada right now. And certainly with the diversion rate. So it's kind of fun. We're a little boutique business, but that gives a lot of opportunities to develop and innovate. But some days it's going, oh my gosh, I wish there was an article somewhere that could lead us to the solution.
Right. Yeah, give me a lead, give me a tip.
Yeah,
for sure.
Jessica, I want to get to you because I had the opportunity to tour your locations, and it was really an experience because it was very clear to me that the team was very important. The culture you're creating. You guys knew everyone's name, stopped to say hello, how are you doing? It wasn't just like a quick tour through. And I quickly realized like people are really important to your business. With any business, it may be cliche,
100%.
but Jessica, I mean, the title of your people operations, I think is like your title, right?
Right.
And I know that you've been working really hard to really create more of like a wider customer experience, like a better customer experience.
Yeah, we want to elevate ourselves. We don't want to be considered a dump.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. We want to deliver an excellent customer service experience and differentiate ourselves from the landfill or a depot. People, they're number one to us, right? We're like a little family, and you can see it because a lot of our employees, they've been with us for many years, some of them 30 years. So, and for me, I started my HR career as an HR professional right out of school. I was there at Tri for 3 years. I left and I came back.
Why?
So
Could you talk about that?
Right?
Not to put you on the spot, but why did you leave and come back? Because I think there's a lot of value in your story.
Yeah. Pros and cons to working for a small or large business, right? And for me, I think working in a small business, there's so much opportunity for growth, and it aligns with my entrepreneurial spirit, right? I think I'm able to be more creative. I wear many hats. I don't just lead the HR function or the customer service function. I'm also dabbling in marketing.
Yeah.
That's how we met you guys,
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think, we're all about people. We're all about elevating that customer service experience. And that's why we're here. We want to talk about what we do and why you should come to Try Recycling.
Mm-hmm. And it's information worth sharing, because I think there's just a lot of unknowns and interesting information that you guys can share that I think is intriguing. The opportunity, like in the way the planet is going, right? Environmental consciousness is kind of important, right? Mm-hmm. We'd love our grandkids and their kids to be around and have a planet to live on. It still just blows my mind how do you get the message? Who do you lobby to take the actual seriousness of what opportunity we're missing? Because what's that show you just said you watched on Netflix?
Yeah, there's a Netflix show called it's about consumerism, like how companies are getting people to buy, and then all the landfill. I don't know if you guys have seen it.
I've seen previews on Netflix.
It's just like
companies were literally asking their staff to destroy perfectly good products because it's going to impact their value in the market, their inventory levels, and they're literally trashing shit, throwing like food in we have like hunger is a real thing.
Yeah.
And we're throwing perfectly edible food in the garbage because of the corporate greed. And then think like the waste. And then when that shit could actually be recycled to be reused and put to good use, and the shit's just ending up in the landfill, like it's mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, and that's one of again. This is a young business. This is a second generation of really thinking about waste not, right? And so it always blows my mind. We think we know what the solutions are, but in Ontario, and I'm going to use this is a fact. It's not political. It's been government after government. There are no stats as to actually how much material is going to landfills.
Nobody's tracking it?
Well, they're tracking it. We submit all the information, but nobody is collating it. Nobody really knows how much is being diverted from commercial waste, from industrial waste. Got a pretty good handle on residential waste, but on average, we're increasing per capita the amount of stuff we're throwing in the landfills as Ontario. And the other thing is, we got a landfill crisis. We still ship 40% of our garbage to Michigan and New York State. If they were to shut the border tomorrow, we would have less than 3 years capacity to look after our own waste in Ontario. There has not been a new landfill in Ontario since 1991. There's been expansions. So all of this infrastructure stuff, people really don't dive too much deeper than I did the right thing by taking my blue box, my green box to the curb. But behind the scenes, they're still trying to figure out policy. They're still trying to figure out the data to create good policy. And so, yeah, I'm very optimistic. I could get down on it and say, oh, we should be doing this. But again, we got the second generation of professionals in the industry that are actually looking at this stuff. Prior to that, it was just who's going to run the dump, right? Who's going to make sure that the seagulls aren't making too much of a mess. So, and you know what? The cool thing about the waste industry, too, is because it's so young, there's so much opportunity. If somebody doesn't necessarily have a degree or a certification but has bandwidth and passion for what they're doing, they can move up. The CEO of Republic Waste down in the States, largest waste company in North America, he started as a driver. He started picking up garbage curbside.
That is so cool.
I love it.
I love that because we've had several guests on this podcast who really did start from the ground level. Now they're owners of the company, and I think Tri in particular has the opportunity to really offer that, right? In terms of, Jess, you talked about working corporately, but now coming and now you're wearing, many hats, but having the freedom to kind of work within the company. Yeah, the flexibility, right? So that's definitely a benefit for sure. And I mean, I think it's fascinating to hear you talk about this, Jim, because you're so knowledgeable. It's jarring and it's concerning, but a lot of our listeners and viewers out there, as we're learning, are people that are interested in entrepreneurship, maybe starting a business or whatever, and maybe they should consider looking at recycling as a good business venture or entrepreneurship. As you guys have.
There's lots of opportunities in the waste recycling, any of the environmental world. It's starting to get a little bit more engineered. It's starting to get a little bit more certified, et cetera, but it's still, compared to other industries, there's so much neat opportunity.
That's cool.
So,
So
you talk about the data, like the reporting. So you guys are responsible to report to who, which body, who are you reporting
Ministry
to?
of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, the MOE as it used to be. So when we apply for a license, it can take anywhere from 2 to 5 years to get a license after we've got it zoned. So not many people want anything to do with waste zoned in their backyard, so that's always a hurdle to get over. And then the second hurdle is getting licensing from the ministry. And to get an approval, again, 2 to 5 years, and there's no guarantee you're going to get it. So what that does is it does inhibit folks trying new things because the barriers to entry are so high. And so if we want to grow and try recycling in Kitchener-Waterloo or in Toronto, I mean, we're looking at a significant risk investment, and it could be 5 years after we got zoning in place.
Right.
So that's a hurdle we're going to get through.
Yeah.
They got to treat anything to do with waste like they do sewers and water. Right now they don't. I mean, it's this isolated thing off to the side. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. The government sees it. They're going, policy says we want to divert more. The approvals and regulatory process doesn't allow for that kind of entrepreneurship and development. And so we'll find that balance. But it's good. Everything is
It's good to hear you say that.
Yeah.
Is the data available to the public?
Absolutely. So, like for one of our sites, every site's got its own license. We have to log what came in, what type of waste it was, where it came from. So if you came to our site with your pickup truck, we'd have to log your address. We'd have to take a look at your waste to see whether it was garbage or whether it was recyclable. We then have to talk about how we process it, what we process it into, and then when it went out. And then you just do a balance. Well, 85% went out as a product. 15% was stuff we haven't figured out how to recycle yet. Typically like carpet, insulation, some of those weird kind of things, right?
So again, for some of the listeners out there who are thinking about opportunities, I mean, obviously the world of waste is not small. And if you're interested in carving out a little niche for yourself, there's lots of opportunity by the sounds of it. In the age that we're in now, too, data is powerful. And I think it sounds like that's some of the gap in this industry right now, is because there's lots of data, but nobody's doing anything really effectively with the data. And some of the biggest companies in the world out there are data companies, right?
Absolutely.
If you can find a way to take the data that's available publicly and aggregate it to be useful information so people can actually make informed decisions on it, there's probably opportunities there.
Scott, I got dents in the drywall. I was chair of the Ontario Waste Management Association. It's now called Waste to Resource Ontario. It represents the private sector and the public sector. So 200 municipalities and just about every player in the industry. And we were constantly telling the government, don't create more policy without having it be data driven.
Right.
So
it seems pretty simple.
Yeah, it does.
We're going to say we're going to divert 30% of our commercial waste. Well, what are we currently diverting?
Yeah.
And what are the regulatory steps to help us do that for you? You give us the playing field.
Yeah.
And make sure it's level. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. So that's where a lot of that common sense comes in, I would imagine, right? That it's just like, come on, guys, like, let's just be, have some common sense about how this is going. And, but I guess you're battling against.
So that's business in general.
Yeah,
that's entrepreneurship in general.
That's true.
Right?
Good point.
So speaking of common sense, we're going to maybe a little controversial topic here.
Yeah.
So,
oh shit. You're getting controversial.
Right? And this is just more, I was at the CHL Top Prospects game yesterday, Canada versus the US. They're a pretty cool game. And my boys got slushies, and it's the bloody paper straws. My goodness. Right? And I know plastics in the oceans, like I know there's a problem with plastic. I get it. The plastic grocery bags are gone, and now we're using the reusables, right? Mm-hmm. This idea, and this is my theory. This isn't backed by data, right? So, but I have listened and done a little digging and research and listened to some pods that go down this path of recycling. And I feel like the plastic straw is just a corporate vanity kind of like, oh, we're thinking about the environment. Because the reusable bags, the impact on the environment, when you start doing and looking deeper on the supply chain, what it takes you to manufacture one of those reusable bags, you've got to use it, and I'm going to butcher the number, I'm off for sure, but it's like hundreds of times. You have to use one reusable bag hundreds of times to offset the footprint for one of those plastic bags. Nobody's using those reusable bags 100 times because we all forget them at home, and we fucking buy another one.
I know.
I've got
300
reusable bags in my house.
I've been donating them.
In my truck, man. I got a whole box full of them. I still forget it.
Right?
It's
and
a
then
good point,
this
Scott.
whole and like paper straws, like we're killing trees now, and we're like the supply chain, the manufacturing process to like, it's not like the plastic straw and getting rid of the plastic grocery bag isn't, I don't think, solving anything.
All right, let's go down the rabbit hole.
Okay.
Here we go.
We got the guy right here.
You are absolutely correct. I would say all the plastic straws in London, Ontario don't equate to one job where we recycle the shingles coming off a house. So the average house, it's about 2 tons of old shingles when they re-roof.
Okay.
That's 4,000 pounds. That's probably all the plastic straws that are used in London in a year.
Right. There you go.
All of those little consumer things really are, first of all, to make you think about doing the right thing and to feel pretty good. I mean, we're taking the blue boxes to the curb, right? The blue boxes are important. It's an easy thing to do. But when if the city or the province were to say shingles can be recycled, and when they come to re-shingle your house, those shingles have to be recycled. It's the equivalent. One house is the equivalent of about 450 blue boxes to the curb from a shingles recycling point of view. Wow. So you look at our site. I mean, we recycle about 160,000 tons of construction material. Remember, a ton is 2,000 pounds, right?
How many tons, sorry?
160,000 tons. Since Tri started, we're well over 4.5 to 5 million tons of material. That's the equivalent of a landfill.
Oh my God.
And I mean, again, we're competing against landfills. This is low-hanging fruit. So you talk about straws. I mean, our people go home at the end of the day after recycling 500-600 ton of material, and it's like they've done more to reduce the environmental footprint.
But thank God I have a paper straw.
Yeah, I hear you, man.
That disintegrates halfway through my slushie.
That single-use plastic thing,
Honestly,
really, it's just to make you feel good and think about the right steps to take. It's not making. I always say, you can talk about the environmental benefit, but we're really looking at the environmental footprint. There's some things we recycle that we put in a truck, and you had the carbon to take it hundreds of miles to have it processed to be recycled. Some that could probably go into the landfill and be better for the environment.
Yeah.
But we're still figuring this stuff out. We don't have the data. I mean, and so I mean, the early composting programs. I mean, well, I am going to get political now. City of Toronto, they were paying $155 a ton to pick up the first iteration of food waste. Of that, 50% of it was garbage. So they got a second truck on the road. They're picking the stuff up. Half of it's going to be going to the landfill anyways.
Right.
They're paying 5 times more than it costs to take it to the landfill. I mean, the environmental footprint is much greater with that contract in those days to collect the compost than to put it in the landfill.
So again, like some common sense needs to
There's
be
just so
infused
much
into
bureaucracy to this.
and educating. You're right. You're right,
But we
Jessica.
are-
Residents,
Yeah.
our young folks.
So in your role, Jessica, like how much of your role is dedicated to the education piece?
I wish I could do a lot more with that, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So a little bit, like, and that's just bandwidth, right? You're one gal.
Bandwidth and, just partnering with the community more often. I think that would be a big focus for 2025.
I think there's a lot of opportunity too through, even like some social media and stuff like that, just to put out educational information. Because I agree, Scott, that's a big part of this is educate. We can sit here and talk about this because Jim, you have this knowledge, but the typical homeowner may just not know, right? It's not like they're doing it maliciously. It's like, hey, I'm being a good guy. I'm putting my stuff in the blue box and whatever. But it's like if we're educating them on like maybe there are alternatives, or it's just kind of changing your habit or the way that you do it. That's all. It's just conditioning, right? It's like we're conditioned to put stuff in the blue box. My wife's always saying, put it in the blue box, don't put it in the garbage, okay? And meanwhile, like how much really gets recycled?
And now that you say that, here's another question, and we'll keep it controversial here. So, because there's shows, documentaries, there's information out there that. And then I got one buddy in particular, and he'll probably be listening, and I'm not going to name him, so we'll save his face, but he knows. Hey,
Dave.
He knows that I'm talking about him. Is the blue bin program, again, so for example, if I throw in a jar of mayonnaise, but I didn't take off the label, and I didn't clean out and wash out the mayonnaise from inside of the bottle, it's contaminated.
Yep.
Right? So in one breath, I'm like, I'm doing the great thing. I'm putting in my blue bin. But I'm not really doing what I think I'm doing because it's contaminating the actual rest of the bin. Yes, no, where, like, and so one buddy in particular, just to finish throwing him under the bus, doesn't use a blue bin. He's that guy, and he's like, this shit just goes in the garbage because it's a bit of a farce. Is of course his opinion.
But the blue bins are effective. From a environmental footprint point of view, they do reduce the amount of waste going to landfill on a individual basis. And I mean, the mayonnaise still in the jar is going to go to a lower value product than if they had cleaned it out. Yeah. But it still is going into another product.
Okay, that's good to know.
So I mean. Yeah, I don't know whether you want to tear the Band-Aid off the whole blue box thing right now in Ontario, because there's some major shifts going on. So the 2 governments ago, they decided that blue box costs should be paid by the producers of the stuff that goes into the blue box, and they adopted a process called the extended producer's responsibility.
Okay.
So recently, the producers have taken over all management of the Blue Box program in most large municipalities, and ultimately in the next few years, all of the municipalities in Ontario. So municipalities no longer contribute towards that cost. What does that mean? Municipalities no longer have input as to how much is diverted, what is diverted in those blue
I was going to say,
boxes.
that seems like a slippery slope.
Yeah.
And the cost,
Putting the power back in the corporate hands.
but you're paying for it. You're paying for it as a consumer. So now you pay for
They're
it.
just
It's
passing
hidden-
it on.
It's hidden in the cost. And the cost to do the collection has gone up almost 5 times. So when the municipalities and regions were doing it, it was about $300 million in Ontario. It is now well over $1 billion. Producers are going, there's something wrong here. It is the first iteration of this program. The other thing is, if your blue box doesn't get picked up in London, Ontario, you don't call the city anymore. They give you a 1-800 number to call Circular Materials in
party.
Toronto. So that's getting a little weird. And you know, there is really no teeth in any laws to say that those producers have to either recycle what was being recycled before they took over, or what they're going to have to recycle next year to make it better. So it's a gray area right now. It's a major shift. Everybody, but the weird part is everybody's doing it, but nobody is getting this information, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's taking
That's
it to the
the thing.
curb.
Well, they will now after this podcast.
Hopefully. It's got to spread.
But again,
Yeah.
I'm always optimistic. I've
Yeah.
been around long enough,
Yep.
enough generations to go, okay, the first iteration never works. Second one gets better. Third,
Yeah.
they got it figured out, and then they usually change it up to the next fad. But that's just the nature of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's going on, and yeah, my hope is that they get it right very quickly.
Well, if the municipalities were still responsible for that, there's some incentive for them to think in efficiencies, right?
Yeah.
Whereas the corporate just going to, we'll just tack it onto the cost and we'll just pass it on to the consumer, and we don't really need to pay too close attention to it because it's not impacting our bottom line dramatically. So,
Well, in the next iterations, the government's going to have to go out and say, right now you're diverting, these specific products. In 5 years, we want to see you also divert this much more products, and you have to prove that it's going to be diverted. You have to give us the data. That's going to evolve. We all like to think this blue box stuff, all the stuff we're doing recycling is sort of set, it's established, but it really is brand new. It really is.
I guess you don't think about that being brand new because it's just kind of baked into your lifestyle and whatever, right? But I mean, it's great to hear that because there are opportunities of innovation and changes and things that we can still make to make it better. So yeah, no, that's it's good to hear you say that. Now, I think these are important conversations and it's definitely from an education point of view. I'll take us off our political box a
I'm
little
sorry.
bit.
I'll take
No,
responsibility.
I think
for
it's
it.
I think it's
No,
good
good
actually,
questions.
Scott, because I think that was part of the conversation we wanted to have, right? Is that like how what is the political landscape of recycling as it relates to your business and that sort of thing.
Everybody wants to do the right thing, and we're getting better at doing it,
Yeah,
but it's
totally.
not perfect. We've got a long way to go.
Yeah. Now, I want you guys, or I'm curious, and I really want to learn a little bit more about Try Recycling as it connects to community. And I know there's the Graham family eco park. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, because I think again it's something that a lot of Londoners don't really know about, and I think it's a wonderful thing that you guys have done to create this park. But I'd love to hear you guys talk a little bit about this, if you don't mind.
I give the quick history of the park.
Yeah.
My family, my father, my sister, and I. My father had an old gravel pit that was basically extracted, and he said, "I'd like the community to make use of it." We reached out, talked to the Boys and Girls Club, a number of nonprofits, and said, "Is there a need?" And they said, "Yes, there is a need. We gotta get these kids out of the city. They need some park space. It's really difficult to use the city facilities and Upper Thames. So if you could design, if we could work with you to design something we know we can maximize utilization of, we'd love to do that." So that was 18, 19 years ago.
Wow.
And we use all recycled product to bring the soil back, to build the roads, and to develop it based on the input from these nonprofits. And so, yeah, we see the Thames Valley School Board out there doing tours of our site and then doing curriculum at the park in the spring and fall. And all through the summer, I think we had over something like 180 different groups using the facility. It really is designed for disadvantaged youth, but a number of other nonprofits that can use the facility, whether it's for their annual meetings, some do charity runs and those kinds of events. I mean, recycling, it's always been to me, if you're in business in a community, it's an obligation to give back to that community. That's how it should work. And especially when we're in a business like the environmental business, where we are trying to do the right thing. So yeah, it's just kind of ingrained in my ethos. Remember the motto of the high school I went to was basically give back.
Yeah. So for listeners, where is it? And if they want to get in on the action, how can they go about that?
So the best way, if they want to get in the action, is to go to our website, and we've got a part-time manager who coordinates to make sure it's the right fit for the park, and that any of the paperwork and scheduling is done for them. It's on Medway Road, just east of Clark Road. And it's a 27-acre facility. We got a 4-acre park. I'm still using Imperial, right? Got a large picnic pavilion, playing fields.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
There's a 1-kilometer walking trail. We got curriculum through the woodlands and talking about how we use recycled product to bring it back.
So it's close to one of your facilities.
It's adjacent to our compost facility. Yeah, so it's really imperative that we don't have any odors at our compost facility, because those kids,
they don't either. Yeah.
Clean recycling. Yeah. No, I mean, I've seen it hundreds of times driving out there. We actually bring our dog to doggy daycare out there and that sort of thing. But it was it was really interesting as I'm learning that it is part of your organization and part of your family legacy, really. Which is really incredible to learn about that.
I don't know. I'm kind of a hands-on guy. When I contribute to something, I don't just want to write a check. And for the team too. I mean, it was our team that was out there on Saturdays and Sundays running the scrapers and the excavators to make the park. So we all got ownership in this, and we all know that we're filling a need that otherwise wouldn't have been filled.
Yeah. Love it. Yeah, and Jessica, is this part of sort of the evolution of your role with connecting with community as you have this really great eco park? Is that something that you're looking to do, perhaps? Maybe.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it'd be great to have more events at the park. For sure.
Yeah.
We've hosted a few team events, state of the business events, and everyone loves it.
That's awesome. Yeah. Have you seen this thing, Scott?
No.
Yeah, I mean, you've probably driven by it. You just haven't really paid attention to it. Yeah.
We keep it very quiet because some of the organizations need. I mean, everything from mental health, where they need that privacy, to other organizations that, these are kids that potentially are at risk and need to be away from the general public that they'd cross paths with in city parks and whatnot.
Yeah.
So it's really unique space, and
it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I keep saying I want to do a concert series out there, though. We'll call it Waste Stock.
Oh, come on. Okay.
Well, are we on that, guys?
You heard it first here on the Hustler and Grind podcast.
There you go. Yeah.
We want tickets to that.
And we could, I don't know if you know the Jones brothers, Jones Entertainment.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'd be interested in helping you get Waste Stock going.
Get Waste Stock.
Waste Stock. Yeah, oh, man, that'd be awesome. I want to pivot a little bit. Love that word, into something that I think a lot of people find interesting that, again, may not know about you, Jim, is that you're heavily involved in Air Show London.
Absolutely.
And I'd like to talk about that because I don't know if people know your involvement with that. And also, little bit of my research that at one point in your life, prior to this career of yours, you wanted to be a Top Gun pilot. And can you take us through that story? I think it's just an interesting story. Not to put you on the spot, but I think it's so cool.
Absolutely. I was a wayward youth, man. I always was an entrepreneur. I always had businesses. I had a home building business while I was going to university. I sold it and had a small excavating business. But I saw Top Gun, and man,
you saw the movie,
1989 or something, and I go, I want to do that.
Nice.
So some of the reward we're working while I was going to university was I could go through and get my pilot's license. And I actually worked at Air Ontario back in those days as
Air
jazz.
Ontario.
Yeah. And so I was like a hangar rat and a ramp rat because I wanted to get to know aviation.
Cool.
And so, I got my commercial pilot's license. I graduated from university and got into aircrew selection with the military. And I was like, then the Cold War ended. And all the pilot slots dried up. They went from graduating like 400 pilots a year through basic flight training to about 30 pilots a year.
Oh, wow.
And even though I was in the queue, they said, man, you typically sign up for 7 years in the Canadian military to become a pilot. They said, yeah, you could be 13 or 15. And I'm going, man, I love this and I dream of it. But during my time at Air Ontario, I got involved with the London International Air Show back in those days, a military air show. And I was with a group of guys called the Turkeys. And so we did all the marshalling and parking of military aircraft. They couldn't let military crews manage the aircraft on the ground at a civilian airport, liability. So our crew, and we went out to the Halifax Air Show and whatnot, got to know the pilots. So I got my Top Gun fill there. Kept my commercial license even after I started Tri, but when kids came along, I still got my license, but I haven't actively flown in about 15 years.
Yeah.
So London International Air Show faded. I was part of a group that started the Great Lakes International Air Show in St. Thomas. London International Air Show was for-profit. We started Great Lakes as a not-for-profit. It kind of grew as big as we could grow it, and we handed it back to the community. A couple years later, Fanshawe and London Airport tapped myself and Gary Vanderhoek, who's manager of customer service at London International Airport now, tapped us on the shoulder and said, hey, do you think there's a business case to bring this back? And we were talking earlier about how, beverages can inspire you. At the end of a bottle of rum late one night, Gary Vanderhoek, who I call the Hook, we said, are we going to do this? Let's do it.
Nice.
We formed a group, did the business case analysis, created the nonprofit. We wanted to dedicate a large chunk of any of the profit we made to children's health as well as veterans charities, and then helping build the aviation education in London.
Very cool.
We got it off the ground in 2016. Like any startup business, the first 3 to 4 years, it was close.
Yeah,
It's a grind.
Got a great executive director during COVID, Holly Doty at ConnectDOT, and since then it's taken off. We've been voted the best air show in North America for the last 4 years running.
Wow.
Largest military air show in Canada.
Huge congrats.
And we've been able to give so much back to community, and I still get to go out there and watch them hit the burners flying by and know all those Top Gun guys that are doing the real thing right now.
That's so cool.
And Gary is an aviation junkie. Like he is like, I don't know if there's anyone else.
He calls himself a plane knob, and he is absolutely a plane knob. We have him and I go so far back, and we've seen so much cool stuff and talked to so many cool guys. So that's my hobby. Someday I'm going to go back to flying. I miss it. I'd like to get back to some aerobatics and stuff. Yeah. But right now that side of my life is filled with air show.
That's awesome. So you're just like what a great thing, and you talk about it as an entrepreneurial journey. It really is. It's not for profit, but geez, I mean, I'm sure that is quite the
cash flow the first 3-4 years, managing that. It's all volunteers as well. So we had to build the right teams. And you're worrying about liability, safety, weather, all those sorts of things. Yeah. Put it this way, if you're to do analysis on it as a for-profit venture, you probably wouldn't roll the dice. Then COVID came along.
Talk about that.
Man, we should have made a mini-series out of that. Late nights, board meetings, working with the government to figure out what we were going to do. We were the largest event that happened during COVID.
Right, you were almost like the only thing people could go to at that time. And you innovated into this, I'm maybe going to butcher this, but this drive-in experience.
We called it SkyDrive.
Yeah. Right, okay, yeah. So can you talk about that, how you kind of innovated, COVID came, but you're like, okay, we're pushing through. We're going to innovate and still make this happen. And I think that to this day is still an option, right? And there's a lot of benefits because have grandpa pull up and the family pull out your cooler and still have that really great experience. I think was that kind of how that evolved? Or?
It's one of the few things that was good that came out of COVID.
There you go.
So in the past, you pay your general admission ticket, you park, you take a bus to the gate, you hike half a mile to get to the front line of the air show, and
kids are yelling and screaming.
Snowbirds are coming on. Dad's going, I want to watch them. Mom's there with the kids, they're sunburnt, crying, going out.
Been there, done that.
When COVID happened, we said, how can we do this? How can we do this? And so the airport worked with us. They said, we've got all this real estate. okay, well, if we put parking spots in there, what do we have? Like, what would the government do? So I had spent a lot of time with the provincial government figuring out how big the parking spots. We came up with a tailgate air show. And so you actually bought a parking spot. You drove in, you stayed on your parking spot, you popped out your own chairs, you bought your own food. After COVID, we had so much popularity for that style, the tailgate, because Grandma and Grandpa could pull in next to the kids.
The hike was gone.
The hike's gone, but we got neighborhoods that are parking together and popping out, the cornhole and the big barbecue going on. And
So
then
cool.
we innovated too. We still got the static aircraft, so the aircraft that are parked that you can tour through. So we got trolleys picking people up, taking them back to the static area. We will never be able to go back to a general admission model. I mean, our fan base just loves that comfort. Kids get hot, you turn on the air conditioning and get in the car. I mean,
so great.
And we're actually able to present the experience so close. And so, I mean, we sold out this year, all 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And there's an incredible demand. We got people coming from all over the world to the show now. Part of it's the format, part of it's the aircraft that Hook gets.
Yeah.
And you've got a VIP option in there too, which I've heard is pretty sweet.
Yeah, this year we created what we called I think it's called the captain's tent. So you can pay for a VIP option where you park in a special area and go into a special tent that's got great viewing, and that's become very popular as well. But for the most part, it's a family experience. And, families are putting it in their calendar year after year. The other cool thing is it used to take like an hour and a half to get into the show, and then you get on the bus, you go to the grounds. Getting out was always. We spent a lot of time making sure that it's convenient. I mean, let's face it. I mean, family time and family dollars are something we all evaluate now. So people get into the air show in 20, 30 minutes to their parking spot. They can go to their static, watch the show. We have them off the grounds within 40 minutes, and that's a testament to our volunteer team. We got very experienced volunteers that they're there to make sure it is not only an incredible flying experience, but it is the best family event experience they're going to have in a year.
And a lot of these pilots are still active in doing missions, and they're not just retired pilots. Like, is that true that they're still active pilots in our Air Force? And
oh my gosh, yeah. So the planes we got coming, they're all active duty.
Nice.
I mean, some of the stuff, you get out and talk to the crews, you get in that static area and you hear about the stuff you're doing, and sleep comfortably in your bed, because there's people doing some really incredible things at the tip of the spear. I mean, there is stuff going on we don't want to know about. They're happy to talk about their missions, and I'm very thankful for they're there. And I'm very you learn about the level of professionalism. It's a whole world that we don't normally get.
We're fortunate enough not to know much about.
Yeah, exactly.
But air show is an opportunity to thank them and know a little bit about what they're doing.
So great. Yeah.
And so we got a huge education component too. On the Friday, we have 5,000 school kids coming out from Thames Valley School, and the idea is to introduce them to aviation. London's become an aviation hub. We got Fanshawe College, largest aviation school in Canada now. Western's also got an aviation program that is North American renowned. We're a hub.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I went to Seneca, and I think Seneca has a aviation as well. But when I show my age here, I don't know if Fanshawe's aviation program was a thing back in the
Fanshawe's aviation
90s.
program's like 10 years old.
Okay, I was going to say, but it's been growing dramatically, and you think that's related to the fact of like London Airport, London Air Show, and it's kind of.
Well, I wouldn't say. I think the air show helps. It's our geography. We got a lot of land around London that people could train in, right? Mm-hmm. And they're in the old Air Ontario hangar, and they started with just training aircraft maintenance engineers, the maintainers. And in the last 5 years, they've gotten into training commercial pilots. I think they're going to graduate 200 commercial pilots this year. And the other thing was, when I was a kid, if you wanted to get into commercial aviation, you had to go up north and build like 1,000 hours, float planes and whatnot.
Thunder Bay or
Kirkland Lake, Timmins, or
like Pickle Lake. Okay. Unless you were coming through the military, you had to build those hours, and it was tough and not very glamorous. Today, there's such a demand for pilots. Basically, they're picking them up right out of the commercial aviation program at Fanshawe and Western, and they've got seats for them in commercial airliners.
So you could still be a Top Gun pilot yet, maybe.
I may be a little bit past my prime,
okay.
Ryan.
Well,
but,
I would trust you in a plane, so you got my vote.
Right. And I volunteered a couple of years, and it's such a fun experience. Like everyone, is so passionate about the air show and making sure everyone has a great time, and it's all about the experience.
Yeah, it's
So that's a really cool thing
You guys
going
hear
on
that?
in London. That's
Yeah.
we should understate stuff. I mean, we're doing cool stuff on the environmental side. And I can tell you a lot more about London Special, the air show, and so many other things. We're quietly doing some really amazing things here in southwestern Ontario.
That's
The air show's best in North America.
Yeah, that it's
I mean,
you know what, and that's why I started this thing. Is like, you know, we're really excited to have you as kind of these unsung heroes in the community. That I think that, you know, Scott and I are fortunate to have these conversations and celebrate people like you that are doing so much good in our community, you know. So, you know, thank you definitely for everything you do. I kind of want to finish back into the recycling part, because what I'd love to do is really just kind of paint a picture for our listeners, our viewers, of like, you know, Scott and I, maybe we're in the backyard, we're cleaning up, fall cleaning, spring cleaning, all that stuff. What is it that, you know, maybe top of mind might be for me to go to a city dump, but I think that, you know, learning and listening to you guys, perhaps I might want to think about going to a Tri location, right? Because just hearing about how you're going to turn 80% of my junk into reusable material and that sort of thing. So I think, again, through education, we can do that. Location-wise, there's 2-3 locations. How many locations? Can you explain where you guys are?
We've got 2 major facilities,
Okay.
one in northeast London, and it's a large facility. It's almost 100 acres. And then one in South London on Dingman Drive between White Oak Road and Wellington Road.
Right.
And it's about 25 acres. Both of them are processing sites. When the material comes in, that's where we turn them into new products. But we also are in contract. We run the city depots. So when people are dropping things off, leaf and yard waste, as well as other materials at the city depots, those are Tri-staff there.
Yeah. Okay.
And-
So I live around the corner from here. We're in Byron right now. So the Oxford
Depot.
The Oxford Depot, yeah.
and Leaf, like my street, beautiful neighborhood, but man, it's a full-time job in the fall. It's a full-time job, and you know, I was talking with one of my neighbors the other night, and I don't know, he was up to like 240 leaf bags this season.
Wow.
But so the depot, like here on Oxford, it's so close, right? So I'm not gonna go to Dingman.
No,
right?
no, and
Right?
we don't do leaves at Dingman.
Okay, so there you go.
Okay,
So
yeah.
I'm doing what I should be then. That's good.
So, so we do composting as well. We talked a lot about recycling. So we get all the leaf and yard waste from City of London, City of St. Thomas.
Oh, good.
A whole bunch of municipalities around southwestern Ontario.
Yep.
What makes us different from some of the other companies that compost is we look at how we can make the highest value end product. Not just get it in and get a dollar for the
Right.
tipping rate.
Yeah.
We want to make sure it's got the maximum environmental benefit at the back end. That's always been our business model. I mean, some people get it in and go, okay, well, we just want to get it in, do the bare minimum, and kick it back out. Sometimes it doesn't even meet fertilizer qualifications. So when somebody from the City of London, yourself, takes it to a depot, leaves it at the curb, goes to our facility, takes between 6 to 7 months to compost it. So we grind it up, we put it in these huge windrows, got to test it every day for things like nitrogen, moisture content, we add water to it. I mean, there's a whole process to composting where it heats up in phase 1, like 55 degrees C inside these piles. Then the temperature drops off and you turn it and add air to
Whoa.
it. Heats
Yeah.
up again. The first phase gets rid of all the pathogens because it's that hot. The second phase puts the vitamins back into the compost. And by the time we're done, our product, everything that you've taken to the curb, is going to Scott's. The Scott's Miracle Grow bags in central Canada and a lot of the northeastern United States comes from compost from City of London leaf and
No
leaf
way.
and yard
That's
waste.
pretty cool.
That is
That
cool.
is cool, because everyone knows of Scott's. You know, you see it in
You know how many
shelves
truckloads
and that?
of yard material I've taken? Like,
Thank you.
yeah, good for you.
you're welcome.
Attaboy.
Your children thank you too for doing the right thing.
Yeah. And I know that, and you know, Scott, you were mentioning, you at a Tri location, what I like about the Tri location, because I have experienced it myself, is that you guys weigh, it's very finite process where you weigh how much I'm bringing in, and then I pay based on the load and that sort of thing. Whereas, and I go to the city dumps too, and they're just like, yeah, I guess that'll be $35, and you know, I don't really ever know how. So you're gonna pay no matter what, right? I think that at the Tri locations, you're kind of, you know, I'm happy to pay that initial part, because I do know, even learning from you guys, that it's going to innovation. It's you're really reusing and repurposing my product.
Love to make enough money on the product at the back end so that there was no cost to bring it in the gate.
Sure, but it's you got to run a business.
The landfill still costs you. I mean, come out to our facility. We've got, a front end loader. One front end loader these days is $500,000.
Yeah.
We got a grinder that grinds leaf and yard waste that's worth $2 million.
Oh my God.
We got shredders.
Yeah.
You got all the bits and pieces that go with that. So, we try to make sure it's still the same price or less than if you're going to take it to the landfill.
It's still super reasonable. So, it's definitely
Someday I'd love to find the black magic box that's going to turn it into gold at the back end so I can say, bring us your stuff, no charge.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
And it is inherent on our business model. If we have to take stuff from you and then send it to the landfill, our business model is much weaker. So if we can recycle it. So
definitely.
It's cool that way. But I'm going to lob it to Jess a little bit because the customer experience is the critical thing. I mean,
absolutely.
The bar is pretty low and was pretty low back in the days where you took it to the dump and you gave the guy a case of beer to turn his back. People want to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. It's got to be convenient and it's got to be cost reasonable.
Well, it is, and Jessica, I'm glad you mentioned that, Jim, because I'm thinking if my wife was to take her pickup and go to one of these locations, it can be a little bit intimidating, right? And so I think what you've done really well, especially Jessica working on this, is really looking at this from a lens of everybody, right? If anybody's going to come here, not just a contractor who's used to coming here, they know the thing, they're bringing truckloads all the time, what is that experience? How's that going to be a less intimidating experience? You show up at this location, you're just like, oh my God, where do I go? I know you're working on signage and things
I think
like that.
It starts with social media. It starts with the website, making sure it's easy. You understand how much you're going to pay, where to go, what to do when you get there, who you're going to talk to. And we start the experience there, right? So go to our website, learn a little bit more about what we do, come to our site, follow the signage. We're trying to make it very clear so it's not intimidating when you drive in. Yeah. You drive up on the scale, then you drive up to the greeter. The greeter shows you where you need to go to drop off the material. Mm-hmm. It's all colored. It's all labeled based on color. And then once you're done, you go back up onto the scale, you weigh out, and you've done the right thing.
Awesome.
And when you talk to the scale operator, you go up to pay, grab a coffee, grab some candy, grab a chocolate. And
nice.
It's a great experience.
Very cool. And then it's in the couple times I've been out there, I have noticed a lot of families and kids. And I'm like, that's great, right? Kids are really understanding, getting comfortable with this process, and understanding. Look at this big $2 million machine. That's actually what's that doing? How is that? And I know your staff are always open and hey, that's what this is doing. And kids just think that's so cool. So good on you guys for sure. What's next for Tri? What's on the horizon? We talk a lot about innovation, how you guys are really the leader. Are there things that are exciting for you in the industry that you're working on and that sort of thing?
Absolutely. I mean, London's been a leader for a long time, from composting through to promoting construction demolition materials. A lot of other municipalities are just catching on. So we're seeing a lot more interest over the last few years in the GTA and regions further afield by municipalities that have their own depots and saying, we should be recycling this construction material. We should be making sure the stuff we're composting is being made into something that actually has environmental value. And so, we're excited to work with those municipalities, and based on our reputation and our testimonials. So we're looking at some growth over the next 3 to 5 years. And again, we're trying to be responsible leaders in what we do, and as far as recycling construction material and doing the compost thing. We started another little business called the Better Bin Company, and it's large bags for construction, basically 6-yard bags. And the benefit of that is typically you were at a construction site, Scott, I'd run a steel bin out to you, drop it off empty, and drive back. And when it was full, I'd drive my truck back out, pick it up, and drive it back. So you've got 2 trips on a big truck. With the Better Bin Company, I drive out my pickup truck, give you the bag to set up. And when I come to pick it up, I'm also picking up 6 or 7 other bags as part of that same cycle. So I'm reducing the carbon footprint by 6 to 7 times with these bags. And the nice part is, too, it's convenient, because if that bag gets full and it's Sunday and you want to do some more work, steel bin, you're kind of hooped. But with these, you just pop them in another bag.
I've seen them, you know,
Yeah, and
the
I've
bags he's talking about.
I've experienced both, right?
Yeah.
We did a massive reno.
Oh,
on
yeah,
our-
you
on
did
our
on your house.
On our
Yeah.
last home.
Yeah.
And I had the bin in the driveway. And again, you know, when you're an amateur like I am, you don't know how much demo material you're going to have. And like, right? So it's like, oh shit, I got this. The bin's not big enough. So you're like, okay, come pick up this bin, and can you drop off the bigger one?
Well, you got to wait for them to come get it.
Yeah,
And
So I've been there. I've been there.
So you'd call us and you'd say, I'm full. And we go, we can't get there till Tuesday. Well, I'm
Right.
full. Okay, we'll drop off a bag. We'll drop off two bags.
Better
Fill
bin,
them up, man.
this Better Bin company, they're these pop up. I've seen them, and talk about innovation, right? And it holds like a lot of
It'll
lot of
hold
material.
3 ton of material.
3 ton.
6,000 pounds.
Yeah, so
And-
I see them more and more throughout London. I think it's really.
I think
cool.
it might be a little bit of a disruptor in the industry. It's
Yeah,
kind
it
of
looks
fun
like
to
it,
play with.
yeah,
And again,
yeah.
it's environmentally good, and we're trying to do the same thing. I mean, typically, bin you'd call a big company and you'd get a robot experience at a 1-800 number, or you'd call a small company and they'd be a mom and pop, and it'd be. We're trying to bring that same experience level of service experience to the bin side of things, where it's easy, it's pleasant, and it's clear and transparent what you're going to pay. And do what
Well-
we say we're going to do, right?
Yeah, that's amazing.
I want to thank you guys for all of what you do, and I think we're in good hands with the stewards you are in this world. I mean, the enthusiasm and the passion that you have for it, it's contagious. This was an incredible conversation, and congrats on all you're doing, and I wish you all the best of success. And if there's anything us or our listeners can do to kind of help nudge things forward, I think the planet will thank us for it.
Scott, I mean, we could keep going on for a while, but
Oh, yeah.
I want to thank you guys for what you're doing, because entrepreneurship has never been tougher.
Yeah.
The hustle, the grind, the return on investment has never been less than it is in today's economy, in today's environment. And you bringing together entrepreneurs, sharing ideas, giving them faith that there could be opportunity on the other side of it, trying to get them to share their leadership with their teams and their community. I mean, there's not enough of that going on, and there's less and less. And we got to create that next generation of leaders, that next generation of entrepreneurs, because, small business and entrepreneurs are what drive this economy.
Well,
Absolutely.
thank
Appreciate
you.
that, Jim.
Yeah, we're having fun doing it. And,
Yeah.
we're glad to have you. I can't wait to listen to this episode.
Yeah. So thanks again. Thanks for coming on,
guys.
Jim, Jessica. Really appreciate it. That was
Where can we find
that
them?
was great. Oh, yeah. So where can we find? Yeah, we'll edit out
Show notes. Come on.
Yeah, you can find
Alex
us
jumping in.
on our website, www.tryrecycling.com, on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn.
And then Eco Park has its own
yeah,
website
their own
as well.
website.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's good. And Better Bin Company also has
Yes, they
its
do.
own website. So that 3-pronged approach there to
Yeah, so we'll get that in the show notes. And then
Yeah.
I think there's some new video coming that you guys are going to be sharing with the world with
Amazing.
some stuff that's been happening. So.
Yeah, so stay tuned for everything that Try Recycling's got going on. It's great. Yeah. So thanks again, guys. Really appreciate
Thanks for
having
having
you
us.
here.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
what a blast. Yeah, good
Great
stuff.
time.
All right.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap. Good stuff.
right.
Good job, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, man.
really
I know.
fun.
Yeah.
Bam!
Fist pumps?
Bam!
Fist bumps.
Thanks for having us. That was so cool.
Another great episode. Thanks for joining us. Please support our podcast. By supporting us, you can go to YouTube, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, go to our website, hustleandgrindpod.com. That way you can go and you can apply to be a guest. Listen to us anywhere that you listen to your podcast, Spotify, Apple, all the channels. But we really appreciate your support. Keep listening. We have a lot of great episodes and a lot of great guests ready to go. We're going to keep coming hard at you here and digging into the hustle and grind of what it takes to be an entrepreneur and a business owner.